Hi everyone, welcome to Industry Week. Welcome back to Industry Week. You're going to hear from Maggie today. She's going to talk a little bit about her experiences, her career, kind of how she got to where she is. Hope you guys will give her a very warm welcome. Hope you guys will continue to sign up to events throughout the week. Hi Jin. Hope you guys will also be getting involved in the competition we're running. Get your best photos, your best experiences. Give them the hashtag IW21 prize for the winner there. Maggie, can you hear me? You all good?
Yeah, I'm all good. Hi.
Excellent. I'll hand over to Maggie then, guys. Okay. We'll get some questions in the Q&A, and when Maggie's finished talking through her stuff, we'll get some of them answered.
Okay, can I start now?
Absolutely.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Maggie. I work as a junior game designer at Supermassive Games, and I graduated from Confetti about a year and a half ago, and I was a student there. Sorry, I'm very stressed. Anyway, so I did a foundation degree in games technology, and then I did my top-up year as in BSc Games Production. And I'm just very happy to be here and chat with you. I want to say a massive thank you to Cal and Jin and just Confetti for having me here. It's very good to be back. Okay, so today we'll be talking about me a little bit, how to become a game designer, some tips on applying for jobs in games design, and some tips on creating your portfolio. So I hope it will help you guys in your career and your journey. So, okay, so I guess we can start now. So a little bit about me now. So I graduated from BSc Games Production in 2019, and it was a pretty wild year, to be honest. And I worked as a student mentor, and I did a lot of other stuff at Confetti, and I loved my time as student mentor, and I really like working with students. And for a short while, I actually wanted to become a teacher and teach games design or something like that. And then after my classes, I worked in the Global Lounge at NTU main campus. And I'm not sure they're reopened yet because everything was going on, but I strongly recommend going there to the Global Lounge. And yeah, it's great there. And I helped on multiple open days at Confetti as a part of my student ambassador role. So yeah, I was showcasing my project and eating halloumi that was meant to be for guests every time. And then I won an award for my, doing, I guess, good job at Confetti. And then 10 days after graduating, I moved away from Nottingham to Guildford to start my job at Supermassive Games. Okay, quick disclaimer. So everything I'm talking about is just my experience, and I got it from industry professionals I talked to, just doing research after university, talking to my teachers, talking to other students, and all of the opinions on my own that I'm showing here. Okay, so let's start. So how to become a game designer. So how to become one. So for starters, I got many questions once, like what designs actually do? Like, are we the idea guy? Do we just write documents and then send them away? Do we know how to code? Well, so all of it depends on the company really, and where you will be working will be, what you will be doing as a designer. However, the main idea is basically this. So I know that's a lot of text, but basically Liz England on her blog wrote this very interesting post, and I found this on Twitter the other day, and I felt like this is what I'm doing. This is exactly what we do. So basically, as a designer, you plan and you worry, and it's on your head to answer all of these questions you can see on the screen. So this is about door in games, and you feel like, oh yeah, door, that's super simple. No, it's not. It's really not. So basically, you deliver answers to all of those questions, and then you deliver them to other departments. And then on the other hand, you have someone who give you the basic idea what they want to do with those doors. That will be your director or the lead design, someone like this. And then you answer those questions. And sometimes it's super easy because they tell you what they want, but you usually have to put the rest together. You can see there's a lot of questions just about one element of the game. And that's the usual job. And sometimes you have to put this together with some scripting tools, but that's different from studio to studio. So it really depends on where you work. So yeah, we usually don't code, we don't write code, we don't program, but we usually use scripts that are kind of programmed for us as we design them. So we say, oh, we want something like this, and then this is being usually given to us, and then we use this tool to make this. Okay, how to start then? So that's a crazy one. So game jams. So what are game jams? So basically, I did a lot of them, and this is where I discovered what role in the games industry is for me. But yeah, for starters, what is exactly a game jam? So the long definition is on the screen. The short one, very quick, it's an event where you make a game in 24 hours. And I know it can get a bit like crazy, but I promise it's like really, really fun because you learn so much. And it might sound like really overwhelming to just like produce something in like 24 hours. And obviously you don't sleep there, obviously, usually. You just like, program, code, do art, anything you can really do in 24 hours. And it's very, very, very good to participate in them. And you may ask why. So why you should participate? So obviously it's a very good learning experience. You mostly learn, like obviously with a little bit of courage, you can learn really everything. And like being a part of a game jam really helps you to develop your skills in research and like searching stuff online, learning from other people, asking like them questions and learning from that. It's like very, very good skill to have in the industry. And then, like as I said, you can learn different skills that are necessary in games production. And obviously not right now at the moment, but when you go to like a normal game jam, when you're all in one place and it's safe to be in one place, you can see other people do stuff and you can watch them do their jobs. And a part of that, like you become a little bit multidisciplinary. So you can learn how to do like 3D, you learn how to code, you learn how to like do other assets for games. So it's very, very useful. And you can meet new people similar to you usually, who also like creating games, and for later you can team up with them and, for example, do like a summer project all together, which will be great for everyone's portfolio. And other important one, you are working in a team, and that's a very good skill to have, like a good, you should learn how to do that, because a lot of employers require you to have experience like that. And obviously if you took part in a game jam, you can probably say that, yeah, we made a game together in 24 hours and I can work as part of a team. And it looks good on your CV. That's, that goes without saying. And you get free food for the weekend. That's a good one. There is midnight pizza. It's very good for students. Not my favorite part, but okay, I'll be lying if I say I don't like midnight pizza. Okay, so here are different game jams I took part in. Yeah, that's me with the pizza, and that's my friend behind. So I attended them all during university, because I think most of the game jams like I attended were for university students. So obviously it's like pretty fair, because you all kind of on the same part in your life. Like there's no people who like work there for like a few years and they come and like, wipe everyone out. So we actually won Hacknots 3 times in a row. That's my proud achievement, with this guy who is like behind me on that photo. But okay, let's talk about big projects, because that's what's important. And I'm going to talk about my sleepless nights and how I struggled to make my first ever game. So my first ever game was What Divides Us. And that was an adventure game I worked on. First solo, it was kind of a part of my university project. I wrote all the design documents for that, detailing what I wanted to be, what I want the game to do. And actually I wrote some script for it. I wrote like in obviously blueprints, I scripted it all. And it was a very, very bad prototype. And I built an Unreal Engine on my own. And it was very difficult. It was really difficult, because when you don't usually do that and you have to kind of start thinking how to, like, in the ways how games are being made, it is difficult. And you know what it took? It was like online searching stuff. I'm sure you guys all seen those memes. And so they're about Stack Overflow. But Stack Overflow is basically Unreal Engine Answer Hub. I mean, not basically, but it's pretty much a very similar website, but for coding. And that's how my game like worked inside. That's how it looked like inside. And you know what? It's very hard to make a game. And at some part, you don't exactly know what you're doing sometimes. And you just, parts of your code doesn't work, or they do work, but they shouldn't work. And I have to admit, when I was recording the presentation about about What Divides Us for game design module on my second year, I literally said, I don't know what this part is doing, but it works, so I don't touch it. And I said that to Jacob, my teacher for that module. and I get my break reward. But anyway, I was honest. Maybe you shouldn't be sometimes. But yeah, it was tough. I don't know if anyone's laughing right now. I hope so. I don't have the, anyone. But yeah, I was laughing at that time for sure. So how I made that game. So we stated in the first part that I did a lot of searching online, asking people questions, stuff like that. And creating a game is hard. And that's what I mostly did, just looking for stuff online, asking questions, stuff like that. However, I had all of those pieces found together from different places. And I imagine like them as like a different things, little puzzles, because like I can find something online. Here is this like tutorial that I made. This is what I wrote on my own. And here's my original idea for that game, like my game design document, what I wanted to do. And then other plugin I found. And I have all of those little pieces. And I feel like my job as a designer in that position was to like piece it all together, put it all together, kind of like a puzzles, connect them all, make sure all of those pieces work together in engine and on paper. And that was the most difficult time, because to make them all work together, I needed to understand them. And obviously then when you understand them once, you study the code, you learn, what it does, then you change little variables and then they change, and then you see what happened in the game and like, oh, well, yeah, that's obvious. So piecing them all together, when you learn it, that's yours, you learn that, you make it all work together, and it's like, like puzzles kind of, and then you create a video game. And yeah, but before you do that, I think you guys need to learn a few things, which is the scope of your game. That is very, very important, because what realistically you can make actually in the time that you have. And a lot of people just have the idea, but they never get to just make it. And they either lose motivation because they don't know how to make something or where to find the answers, stuff like this. And I have a few tips for you in that case. So the first one, you're a student, then don't go too big. You need to remember a few things. You need to know how to scope your project. I need a drink. About other modules and on the responsibilities you have as a student, like what kind of game you could make in that time that you have. And I have a few examples so for example, let's say you want to make advanced RPG game with complicated structures and mechanics. Okay, think about all the things you need to consider for that. All of the mechanics, combat, I guess you have some trade, quests, yeah, that's RPG, right? And that's so much, that's like AAA project, that's not like a student one. However, if you frame it as like vertical slides of the game, just like, let's say one level, and have some proof of concept for that, as in like you've got this one level and it has some example NPCs, some basic combat, some basic skills, and then you have some documentation to back up your idea, detailed information, how you want the game to play out, showing that, oh, I have this system and that works in the engine, but then if I want to expand it to, let's say, add the trade, quest, whatever you want, you can prove it in design documentation. Obviously, that'll be a bit more technical, but it's very useful to have stuff like this. And then let's say you want to make a procedurally generated dungeon crawl. That's a very difficult one. Like, you've got so many stuff to consider, but that's just idea. You have to think about more in that way. So instead of like making the whole system for like generation of stuff, think about like making some pre-made maps, focus on working on the combat mechanic. That's a total like devil in details. Like, that's a very big project on its own. So think where you can like kind of chop up a part of your project and then maybe discuss in the GDD how you want it to be later. And yeah, that's my favorite. So a lot of paths for like certain projects are like super complicated, and people say, yeah, I'm going to make this massive game with a lot of different choices and outcomes. It is very difficult. And if you want to tell a cool story, maybe think about writing one linear story with like cool, interesting characters and cool plot twists, and think about expanding your story to different paths in your GDD. Show how you want to make them like, show how you want this to be if you'd have enough resources, enough time, stuff like this. And speaking about those doors from the beginning, oh shit, okay, sorry. I've got wrong slide. But basically there's this like long stuff about doors in games that Assassin's Creed apparently didn't have any doors because it was so difficult to make them because all of those questions. So when you start going to details, you'll notice that stuff gets way more complicated than you can really imagine. Sometimes it's not worth to focus on them all. And I know it's a very bad advice. Like if stuff is complicated, go away. If stuff gets hard, run away. Don't do that. Like it's just in this case, like it's a very bad advice, but you need to be smart about your game projects. You need to be smart about what you want to do. And if something feels like it's super easy, but it gets complicated, think about a way to just like work around it. And in Poland, we have this saying, which is lepszy wróbel w garści niż kanarek na dachu, which translates to yours, one bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So think about it in that way. Create something smaller, something you can create, but please make it. You will learn from that. And I have some more examples of how to scope your project. So in other cases, so for example, you can use easier art style. So this is very subjective. For some people, pixel art might be super difficult. For me, it is. For me, it'll be easier to use like low poly, let's say, or even like, photorealistic, because that's what I learned at university. But it depends on your skill and what you specialize in. But look up different art styles, see what assets are available online to you, see what are the tutorials online that you could possibly use to work on your assets. And yeah, focus on what you can do, play to your strength. And Firewatch is a good example. Obviously, I'm not saying that the studio can't animate human, but it was a cool example to use narrative to exclude them from the game. And it felt like fine, it felt all right. Well, maybe not the ending, but if you played Firewatch. So that corresponds to what I said before, but also I want to add, don't be scared to let go of a project, but not like, oh, I cannot make it, bye-bye. But in a way to like, when you finish a game, and let's say you made this cool platformer, but you still keep on thinking, oh, I could change this because now I learned how to do that. So I could totally dig under myself and change the whole setup I made this project in. Don't do that. Just if you feel like the game is finished, just, I'm not saying ship it, but you know what I mean. Just let it go. Go on other project. Start other project with better foundations. Finish and let it be, and don't go back to fix stuff forever, because you'll just be doing that all the time. And as I said, with the skill that you have, do something better. So yeah, that's a pretty important one. So let's say I want to make games about cleaning stuff, for example. So let's say you go and pick up rubbish, and that's the game. So let's think about it. So to clean a spot somewhere, you'd have to work on a blueprint. Like speaking of Unreal Engine, or speaking of, I don't know, Unity, you have an object, and this consists of different gameplay mechanics. So let's say it has a trigger box. And when the player, considering we have the player ready with their trigger box, so let's say those two trigger boxes reach each other. And then this turns on the input for the player, so they can press E to clean. And it would be useful to have some prompt on the screen too, right? So when you reach the trigger zone, the prompt with E appears, and then it lets you clean something. So and then the player presses E, and then prompt disappears because then you don't need it, and then animation plays of the player character cleaning, and then that possibly destroys the other character, so other like the rubbish prop or whatever it was, or like, I don't know, a stain, whatever. And so it goes on. So when you plan a game, think about how you may code it. Like, it would be super difficult. Do you have any idea how to make it? So that would be very, very useful to have. And so in the beginning, it might be difficult to code, and I mean, like, script anything, but when you start, you might be very limited, and make what you can make first. So then later you can make what you truly want. You will learn on your journey, and this is fine. That's how it should be. You learn stuff as you make stuff, and it's fine. Like, no one like started and like code their like massive first game. Like, come on, everyone starts small, and remember it. So when you will know how to make what you want, use it to your advantage. Make something that you can show to your dream employers. They would be like more keen on hiring someone who already have some experience in working on certain systems, certain games. So if you really want to work on, let's say, some RPG game, why not work on that, one level RPG game with extended GDD? That would be very helpful for your future job. And like, people who want to hire you, they would love to listen about that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about applying for jobs and what is expected of people like you. So, okay, let's pretend. So let's say you guys are just graduating. I think you do soon anyway, right? And you want to have a job in games design and you want to apply for some jobs right now or like in the, soon. And you need to prepare some of your stuff. So I would say let's actually look up some game adverts. I picked 3 of them, all for game design positions, and not all of them are from the UK. Some of them are somewhere abroad. And all of them are just titled game designers. So no senior or no lead roles, just game designer, and no juniors, just game designer. So the first one. So, okay, bear with me. I know this is a lot of text, but bear with me. So what we have here. So this is a competitive online platformer game. Oh, what could it be? So what do they want? Okay, some experience, cool. You guys want us to be, you understand the game, structures make sense, working with documentation, knowledge of other titles, of course, communication, learning abilities, team play, teamwork, that's the usual stuff. And don't worry, you guys don't have to read all of this. I just, gave you the short one. And don't worry, like it will come back later and all makes sense. But okay, let's go to the next advert. So that's adventure game. So, okay, they want experience, obviously. They want you to speak English. I think you all do. They want you to have some passion for certain types of games. Same like before, they want to be eager to learn and experience a certain type of engine. That makes sense. Okay, next one. That's the final one. So don't worry, it will all make sense very soon. And that's the long one. I barely could fit it in here. So, okay, experience. Okay, just like previous ones. Ability to work independently, experience in shooters, communication, skills, writing skills and documentation making, prototyping, mechanics, that makes sense, experience with design documentation and other forms of game design like flowcharts, source control, teamwork, in this case, cross-discipline, so that I spoke about in the case of game jams, and some referrals. Okay, so that was the last one. Now let's get them all together and speak about the first part. So, okay, that's a lot of text. You don't have to read that. It will all make sense very soon. Okay, so the first one about the experience, like, oh, you need one AAA game shipped on those consoles, or you need plus 3 years of development. Yeah, let's address the elephant in the room. Should I apply for jobs that call for work experience that I don't have? So I spoke with some of my friends about that, and some recruiters just say like 2 years or X years, obviously for game design, not for like lead and senior. That's what we're talking about, just game design normal. They want to screen candidates out, some do, and especially when they receive a high volume of applications. It's just an easy way to just get rid of some of them, because some people are like, oh, I'm not good enough to work here, I won't apply. And especially like a big company, they get so many applications, like everyone can send a job application really. So sometimes they don't actually need you to have experience, but they just mention it so some people won't apply, so there'll be less people to go through. Usually people who don't apply would be people who don't really believe they can do the job. So, that's, another one. And also I heard that people say that you should actually apply for any job if you meet at least 80% of requirements. So come on, like if the only thing you are really missing from that job advert is just the experience, like professional 2 years experience, like come on, just apply. And well, I applied for that and my job required that and I still got it. And it didn't really affect anything in that way. And on the other side, you may have to use it to your advantage. You might have to tell them, well, I don't have the professional experience. However, I worked on that game project during university, and this is very similar to what you guys are doing. You have to sell yourselves to them in that case. So say like, oh, I work on this very similar game. And maybe I don't have this experience. However, I worked on that. So, okay, we can get rid of that for now. I crossed this out. Okay, let's address the next one. So I'm removing the English one because we all speak English here, but that's like abroad. Okay, so now let's move on. So they want experience with certain software. And I am sure you all did something at university with Unreal Engine. I did in my course. I also know that on the college level, people do Unity. At least that's what I heard. And well, game engines are like everywhere in making games. So come on, all of you must have some experience with using any game engine as Unity or Unreal Engine. Yeah, and there's some stuff about source control, experience with source control applications, SVN, peripherals, on brain, etc. So source control is a bit different one. That's what being used to keep everyone the same version of the game. So you can like push your changes to the game that you make and then pull other people changes. So you all can work on the same like version of the game. And maybe you work on a project all together with some other peeps and you had the, had the chance to use source control. I didn't have it at university, and I don't know if you guys do, but I learned in my free time, and it's very easy to just look up some stuff like online how to use it. And also when you like, join the studio, they'll just show you this button to push your changes, this button to pull the other people changes. And like, I don't know, something like remember to put comments or something like that. So don't worry, it's nothing hard, I promise. Okay, so now we remove those ones. So we've got now a bit more condensed version on the bottom, which is all of the technical knowledge that is needed for those 3 jobs. So let's hop on the next things that we have. So that's called interpersonal skills, I believe, something like that. And this is something that you do not learn at university usually. I mean, maybe some teamwork and being independent, stuff like that. But okay, so from the top, I believe you must be a little bit passionate about games if you are here, right? I hope so. And since making games is usually a team effort, you must be prepared that you'll be working with the others. So you've got the teamwork checked out, right? I hope so. And then okay, they're on the bottom, that's good. And then it gets like really small right now. And let's move to the design skills. So all those 2 call for some design skills. So you have understanding of game structures, documentation, using different design techniques. It makes sense. It is quite used in the job. So that's what you should do. So we have those. And obviously writing documentation, stuff like that. Okay, so now it gets very specific. Knowledge related to certain titles. And that is something I addressed already. So while working on your personal project, it's good to think about your future job and what you want to do exactly. I mean, what games you want to work on, if that makes sense. And when you want to, where you want to work, what company. And it is difficult, but you can also stretch it a little if you know how. So let's say you are working on a third-person shooter, because of, the app that we have with elements of a platformer. You could do that. And then if you'll be showcasing that game, you showcase one side more to one employer and the other side more to the other employer. So, and obviously you still work on one project that you can submit to your, to university for a grade. So of course you have to do some planning if you're planning this kind of move. Remember about stuff I said about making sure your project is not too huge and how you can chop up a few stuff, when it's too difficult, just leave it be. No, I didn't say that exactly. Anyway, okay, so this chart will come back, but first let's look somewhere else. So let's look what you may have after you finish university. So after I finished university, that's what I had more or less. So I had the GDD, my game project, that's like playable game, lab report for, I think it was for design. I think lab report was basically just like very in detail information about kind of like documentation for my game. So I could showcase like, let's say this game about cleaning. So that's where I will describe how I made this like cleaning spot mechanic. So I have the trigger box and then the player reaches trigger box, the prompt appears, then player can press E, player presses E, then that happened. That's in your lab report. At least that's what we had when I was at university. And that was very useful because it teaches you and shows to other people and the teacher, employers, everyone, how you understand your game mechanics from like that point of view. And yeah, of course, it's a bit more complex than this. Like obviously it kind of like assumes you have all of this, but I also had my game jams and my private project that then kind of become my university project. I also had my dissertation that kind of linked with my project, the game, but you get the idea. You should have at least those 4 things. Like you should have a game if you want to work in games, right? So here's what we need. All of those like little charts I made previously for you, and that's what we have. So and I know it's a lot of text, don't worry, I'll read that for you. So you can see, for example, from the left, we've got the technical knowledge. So you must have it because you have this playable working game, am I right? I hope you do, you get me. So I get that being at uni is a lot of things, and I'm sure you made at least one game, right? Then we have in the middle more like, use skills. You must have at least some of them, right? And then the design skills later. That should come out of your lab report, game design document, and other stuff like this. Since you made that game in the first place, you must have used something to design it, right? And you had to write it down somewhere, like, write it down somewhere that you want it to be, like the place, like what is supposed to be, like the game. Like, I'm not talking about like very in detail like drawings of levels and stuff, but I'm sure you used some techniques of design, even if you didn't really knew that this is being used as, like, for example, flowcharts. Maybe you use them, but you didn't really realize, but we use them a lot and they're very useful. And if you have any like presentable like design charts or something like that that you would use to communicate your idea to the others, that's very useful, and you should put it somewhere nice. Okay, so let's leave this massive text behind and let's focus on like little pieces. So when you respond to the advert with your experience, so before going to interviews or in your cover letter, think about mentioning the things that they put in the advert. So for example, when they say, we need someone that understands game systems, you would say this. Make sure you have somewhere like the mention of that. Like in this case, you need to learn how to respond to those requirements with your own experience, and you either put them in the cover letter or you put them somewhere in your portfolio, but just make sure they will find them, because like they will be looking for that. And here's another example. So you are multidisciplinary if you finish the same degree as I did. I had 3D stuff, I had games industry module, I had games design. I learned a lot about different parts of making games, like different pipelines, which makes me a better designer right now because I understand them all. And it's very easy to communicate my ideas. It's easy to say what I need because I have the knowledge of how those guys do the things that they got hired to do. We also did some like audio recording at some point. I remember that. That was fun. Okay, that's another one. That's the last example, actually. And you have it, right? You did this. And you need to remember to mention it. Employers have so much on them. Like when they are looking for someone to fill the position, they have so many applicants. They give, I mean, I'm sure you heard that already, but they give your portfolio or cover letter just like a quick glance and they move on. And they look for what they need. They look for those hotspots that mention the stuff that they put in the advert, and make sure they see it. Make sure they're presented to them very, very easily. And now let's have a quick chat how to present it and how to show off your projects and your skills and your other stuff that you produced. So let's talk about your experience first. So your experience are games that you worked on. They don't want you to like mention stuff that you worked, I don't know, somewhere. Like I didn't put that I worked at Global Launch, let's say, because Global Launch was like a place for like cultural like diversity at university where we like celebrate our cultures and we all have this like chill place to go to. And I was just like, making sure everything is fine there, playing board games. They don't care about that. It's great. It's cool to like mention it maybe on like interview when they say like, oh, we've got some people from different cultures, and you can be like, oh, I work in this place at university that also had many different cultures in it, and we like, had different like celebrations held there and stuff like that. So, but don't put it on the CV or portfolio. They don't want that. So you should briefly show what games you worked on, how much time you spent on them, and make sure you put a small descriptions of what you did and what game is it. And like, don't put any excessive like lore into stuff, like anything like characters. They don't want that. They just want to know what the game is about, your experience, like what you did on it. Make sure to mention what project was university one, what project you did on your own, what project was like a group effort, stuff like that. This is very important. And then as you have those little hotspots on your website, make a separate page for each game. And then for the separate pages, like, so on those pages, put obviously screenshots. I mean, that's quite obvious, right? But you need to showcase it nicely. They need to catch the employer's eye and they'd be like, oh, that's a cool game. I want to see that. And then, so obviously you have like pictures and stuff. And then you should have some more details about the game. Make sure like you put them on the top of the page or something like that. And like in those details, make sure you put what you did in more detail on, like, what was your role, stuff like that. What is the objective of the game as well. Put some like technical info, as in like what tools have you used, what's the platform, like, and what was your role in, like, there is so much stuff about what you did, but you really want to show what you did on the game, so then the employers can know that, oh, this person did that, so they know what are your skills. And yeah, again, your responsibilities. And because it's very important, based on what the employer will know for sure, on, based on that, they will know what you worked on for sure. So they know what skills you have, what technical skills. And then also, finally, you can showcase some design techniques on the bottom. As you can see in my designs, I really like to show the flowcharts. I really like them. I use them a lot in games, and even the linear ones. I use flowcharts. I make like storyboards, put stuff like that. And they help me understand the concepts I want to produce. I also showcase some like map planning, and the white box as well is here. So it's like some level design, stuff like that. But whatever you have, obviously, if it looks good, it has to look good. It has to look presentable to someone who doesn't know what the game is about. So when they like see some like, like just some scribbled mess, they'll be like, what's that? I don't even know. But yeah, you really want to show it if it looks good. Like if you zoom into the text, you could read what it is about. Like you could see on the map where is what part of the game, stuff like that. So show if you have it, but if you have it like very just scribbled on the paper and it doesn't make sense, don't show it. But this shows that you can communicate your ideas in different forms, and that's a very big part of game design. And finally, what you can use for the website. So I'm not sponsored by anyone, just I really want to recommend you guys some good website makers, but not on the case like, oh, they have so many amazing features. The thing is, when you work on your website, it's a very stressful time. And maybe it's not the best part to like figure out HTML or CSS or stuff like that, or WordPress. Maybe you don't have time for that. If you did that previously and you feel like, oh yeah, I can use WordPress, I love WordPress, yeah, great, do that. But if you don't, you should really think about like, what is the easiest way to make my website presentable, easy to edit, easy to showcase stuff that I want to showcase. Yeah, use something easy. I know Wix and Squarespace is very expensive. I go in for Wix because it was just very easy to use, and I use it only for that time when I was applying for jobs. Then I, just ditch my website. But I really recommend that. And I know doing all of this is very stressful, and I know you guys, I know from my experience that when I was doing it, I kind of felt like I want to just do this website as quickly as possible, just push it to the employers and just don't look there, because I'm just so scared, like, will I get the job, will I be hired, I don't know what will happen to me. Like, I know it's very stressful, but you have to come in prepared. You have to think about it like, that's my future. I want to like put some work into it. I want to make sure my website is good. I want to make sure my CV is good. I know it's embarrassing to ask your friends to like, hey, could you read my CV, please? It is embarrassing, but you're all in the same position. Use it to your advantage. Help each other. Like if someone know how to put a nice website on Wix and someone is really struggling, just help them, because you're all in this together and you can all help each other and like read each other's CV, edit them. Like don't be just like produce on your own and just send it. It's really important. And that's it. And thank you so much for coming to my talk. And I want to wish you guys the best in your job hunt and in your future positions. And oh man, I want to wish you like the best of luck with finishing your degrees for starters. And you're all great, talented people, and you're all in a very good spot for your careers. And it was incredibly difficult year for like everyone. And I'm very proud of all of you for making it all here and still like seeking the career in the games industry. And it's just such a cool industry to be in. And I'm sure I will see some of you in the future. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, ready for questions now?
I'm ready for questions.
Jin's been feeding me the questions via mobile.
Okay.
So I've got a nice handful here. First question. Okay. I've already started looking at job applications for after my third year. Many of them require experience in AAA games, even for junior positions. What's your biggest tip to get that initial experience?
I mention that. And my biggest tip is just like, so obviously the advert goes like, oh, AAA experience, 2 years or something. Make sure to mention this in your cover letter. Like, I don't have AAA experience. I didn't work in games. However, I worked on this game during my time at university, and this is part of my portfolio. And the game is very similar to what, obviously, form it nicely. Don't say what you guys produce, but it's very similar to what you guys produce. So I have some experience working in like adventure games, and I know the mechanics, and this is being shown in my portfolio. I have this GDD about my adventure games, stuff like that. Obviously, it is difficult, but that's the best way to do that.
I guess it's if it's not AAA experience, it's at least some kind of experience.
Exactly.
Okay. Where would be the best place to find game jams?
Game jams. itch.io. Currently, there's a spring game jam going, and I know itch.io shares a lot of game jams. Also, if you're a student, so the stuff that I took parts in was not really game jams, but hackathons. It's pretty similar, but you usually use excessive tech to do that. So let's say we made like a game of like 3 monitors and leap motion, because it's just fun, right? But usually in game jams, you just do a game in a real engine or something. So look up itch.io, look up MLH, Major League Hacking. They post on their website of hackathons. So if you want to do hackathons, which is also kind of like that, like I use them for my job applications, go there. They share a lot of game hackathons / game jams a lot. So mostly that.
Okay. And obviously, I am contractually obligated to also mention there is a industry week game jam happening right now.
Right over.
Check Confetti social media. You'll find some good examples. So in terms of your current position at Supermassive, was that one of many studios that you'd applied to, or was there a kind of planning and networking aspect involved with getting you to there?
I applied for many studios, and I gave this very bad advice last year when I said something of the lines, tailor your CV and your portfolio to your employer. I haven't done it, but I got the job anyway. But yeah, I haven't done it. Like, re-tailor your portfolio, and I haven't done it. But I feel like when I see, oh God, how to done just, oh God, okay. I see that I know why they hired me, maybe like that. So it kind of feels like I tailored, because well, my game was kind of like pick your choices game, right? So it makes sense they interview me for the role. So I feel like if I would say, yeah, I tailor my stuff, you can see my website. It's this like big adventure game with like, this flow charts. That's exactly what you guys want. So I could say that, but I haven't done it really. But at the same time, I was interviewed for other roles as well, which are like don't have much to do with like what I had in my portfolio. So it really depends, to be honest. But I would do that because that's very safe, safe bet. If you will tailor your experience and like, work towards like some company, like, have chat with people who work there, ask them like, hey, what did you apply with? Stuff like that. So that's a very good like tip to go for.
So again, on the subject of kind of your current position, how much freedom do you have as a designer at Supermassive? How empowered do you feel about the projects you're working on and your contributions to them?
I can't talk about it, Kyle.
Don't break any NDAs. Just like,
I would say
I get to do the things I want, or
I mean, yeah, I would say that. Like, honestly, I really love my position, and I feel like I really get to put my heart into the games I'm making. And when I do that, I don't feel it's like wasted heart I put, what I mean? Like, I don't waste my time being so much into the games we're making.
You get to suggest a thing and see that thing actually happen. That's, yeah.
Maybe yes, maybe not.
When sending in a portfolio, is it best to have a wide variety of projects or to have kind of very specific sets of particular skills? So environments, multiple types of environments, or environments, very detailed environments?
So I had it, but my main portfolio. So obviously I had in my portfolio my environment that I made for James module, the 3D stuff. And it was kind of hidden in my portfolio because I didn't apply for like environment roles. I applied for design strictly. So I would say, obviously it's difficult because you won't be like editing your website every time you apply, and then when someone will look, they will look the wrong website because you edited this to apply for, I don't know, car game or something. Like, let's keep it sane. Put your like projects in those like websites and those sites that you have, put the timeline, stuff like that, and like put the best projects that you have. I don't know how many projects are we talking about. Are we talking about like putting a childhood project or something? Then don't do that. Just put something you work on for like past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, something like that. Something that really shows your skills. Like if you feel like even this like childhood project like really like teach you some parts of making games, like you learn a lot about doing this, yeah, put it in. It's very useful, but like don't go like too crazy. I hope that answers the question.
Fairly recent, fairly focused.
Yeah, something like that. And obviously, if you don't apply for like environment positions, like like environment artist or something, like that's another like different like topic, to be honest. But like don't like flash them straight away on the website. Just put them a bit to the back. Like put the stuff that you really you're proud of, you really want to work on the very front. So if you apply for certain type of jobs, they see that first and they're like, oh, this person worked on that. That's great. I want them to work for me, something like that.
Okay. So as someone originally from Poland, how did moving to the UK, kind of relocating, how did that affect your kind of your dreams, your career? And what would you say to people who are maybe hesitant to look at careers in foreign countries?
Okay, so when I came to England and I went to my first like time at Confetti, I went to, oh god, there was some like party that Jin made, and I met my friend there, and she was also Polish, but we spoke in English for the whole time, and that was very embarrassing. I was like, oh, you're also from Poland? Oh, that's great. I spoke with in English with you for like all of this time. It was so embarrassing, but you have to put yourself out there. That's how you say it. So I had a lot of experience with Confetti when I had absolutely no clue what people want from me because I didn't know what they're saying. But it's normal because I came to England from a different country and I came straight to university. It was very difficult. It was very challenging. Like I went home at some point and I was like, I don't know what Jacob is saying. I have no clue what I took from this lesson at all. Like, I don't know what Jin wants from me. I just don't understand him. It is difficult, but you have to stay in it because you learn like every day. If you have this like pointless chat with someone, yeah, lol, Jin. If you have this chat with someone, it makes like your English better. Like I don't want to be an advert, but when I went to the global lunch, we had this game we played, like a human bingo, yeah, and you have to like talk with other people, and that's when I broke my like language barrier, when I was just like I was not scared to talk with other people, and I was not scared to like make mistakes. You have to be ready for that because you'll make mistakes, and I made so many mistakes on my first year. I was writing terribly, but guess what? I obviously my first year wasn't the best one, but then on the second one, I got distinction. I got distinction on the next one as well because I just stayed here and I just kept on learning English, and then it just become very easy and very accessible. And I guess you just have to keep on going. I guess that's the best advice I can really get. Just don't be ashamed of your mistakes. Don't be like, oh, I cannot be here, I'm terrible. Just go on because it's really, really worth it. Like I absolutely love it here in England, and I loved my time at Confetti. It was great. And yeah, sorry, Jin, for that, but it was my fault that I didn't understand.
Perfect. And our final question before we let everyone out. What's the one message you have for students? The one biggest piece of advice you would have them take on their journey into the games industry?
So it may feel like at the beginning it's very difficult for you guys, but the first one is like take your time. Like even if you don't get the job straight away, it's not a big deal. I worked and I knew so many people who like rebranded themselves. Like they worked in one industry for many years and they came and work as game designer, and that's fine. I met a dude who have a baby and a wife and stuff like that, and he become a junior, and that's fine. And like there's so many different stories I like came into as I entered the games industry, and like going to different panels, talking to people. Like there's so many stories of getting into the games industry, and you are only on this one path now, that you did university and now you're looking for a job. But just don't be like sad if you don't get it at the first go. Don't be like discouraged, that's how you say it. Don't be like, you know what I mean, don't give up, because there's so many different paths you can take to get to the industry. And obviously I'm talking about this one now because that's, you know, that's my path, that's my experience stuff, and obviously that's where you guys are. So I want to give you like relevant, you know, tips. But yeah, that's the first one. The second one is that honestly, when I was a student, I was very, 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 very busy. I had no time to do anything. And then like it really gets easier when you finish, when you start working. It really gets easier. Like suddenly you come home at like, I don't know, 18 or something, 1800, by the way. I don't say the normal hours, 1800. And then you're just like, what do I do with my life now? I don't have any like, you know, project to get on with. Like it's really like, it's way better. And then when you like start working on the game that, you know, you got hired to do, you start like seeing the game being reviewed. You ship the game. You see all of your work you put into the game just being like shown to other people. Oh god, it's such a cool feeling. And it's very, very good. And it's like, it's all really, really worth it. It's great work in the games industry, and I couldn't be in like a better place. And if you feel the same way about the games industry, I'm sure you'll feel the same way when you will make it there. And it's like really worth it. Just keep on going. Yeah, that's my two messages. Or how many I even said, I don't even know.
Perfect. Okay, so there are 110 of you in the chat. So I expect to see 110 rounds of applause.
Oh, right.
Well, you guys thank Maggie for her time.